The story today is about a woman who, after getting married, goes to South Africa to celebrate her honeymoon, which perhaps was one of the most beautiful moments of her life. However, during this time, she was murdered. This story belongs to Anni Dewani. As the story unfolds, many ups and downs occur, and it becomes very difficult to distinguish between truth and the lie. But as the story progresses, new clues emerge. So let me start the story from the beginning. Annie was born on 12th March 1982 in the city of Mariestad in Sweden into a Hindu family of Indian origin. Although originally from an Indian background, her family later settled in Sweden and they were quite well off financially. Annie was always a cheerful and smiling girl since childhood, and she always made the people around her laugh. As she grew older, she obtained a degree in innovation engineering and started working for a company named Ericsson in Stockholm, Sweden. She used to travel to and from London frequently due to her work commitments. It was during this time in 2009 that Annie met Shrien Dewani. Shrien Dewani was also of Indian origin but held a British citizenship and lived in Bristol area of England. Besides, Shrien was quite a wealthy and a successful businessman who was expanding his family business. When Annie met Shrien, they started dating and gradually their meeting turned into a love. They eventually decided to marry each other. After that, they introduced themselves to their respective families and Shrien was also liked by Annie's family. Subsequently, another members of both the families also met each other and it was decided that they would have their wedding done in India. Both the families came to India and on 29th October 2010, a grand wedding took place in the luxurious hotel in Mumbai's Powai area. The entire family was very happy with this marriage and they believed that Annie and Shrien were made for each other. After their wedding, Shrien booked the tickets for their honeymoon in South Africa. On 7th November 2010, Annie and Shrien arrived at Cape Town International Airport in South Africa. From there, they took a domestic flight to reach Kruger National Park where they stayed for the next 4 days enjoying the jungle safari. On 12th November 2010, they returned to Cape Town International Airport and took a taxi to reach the hotel Cape Grace, which was one of the most expensive and luxurious 5-star hotels in that area. Upon reaching the hotel, Annie and Shrien spent their entire day at the hotel, only going out for dinner at night. The next day, on 13th November 2010, they again spent the whole day at the hotel. Around 6:30 p.m., Annie and Shrien got ready and went outside the hotel. They sat down, had some drinks, took some photos and waited for the driver to arrive. Actually, they had a plan to explore the city and experience its nightlife that evening. They had booked this taxi driver from their excursion who had dropped them from the airport to their hotel earlier. The driver's name was Zola Tongo and he had a Volkswagen Polo car. Around 8 p.m., Zola Tongo arrived at the Grace Hotel with the taxi and he messaged Shrien that he was outside. After that, Annie and Shrien came outside, got into the car and left from there. After getting into the car, Shrien tells the driver to take them to the restaurant with a good menu. Zola then takes them to the side restaurant located in the stand area around 9:33 p.m. They have their dinner there for about an hour and around 10:24 p.m. Annie and Shrien finish their dinner at the restaurant and step outside. They then get into the taxi and leave from there. As they leave, their car reaches at the area called Gugulate, which was separate area from the city located in the blasting neighborhood. When their car reaches a turn and the driver slows down to take a turn, Suddenly, someone from outside forcefully hits the car's front windshield. This loud noise startles the driver, Annie and Shrien. After looking outside, they see two men standing there, one with a gun in his hand. Before they can understand anything, one man forcefully sits on the driver's seat and the other man opens the rear door and sits next to Annie and Shrien. These men then snatch watches, mobile phones, purses, and whatever cash they had with them. After that, they force Zola, the driver, out of the car and speed away from there. Approximately 20 minutes into the drive, the kidnappers also forcibly remove Shrien from the car and flee, leaving Annie behind in the car. By around midnight, Shrien, in frantic state, was knocking the door of the people seeking for help. After struggling for a while, Shrien meets a man in that area who calls the police and informs them about the incident. Shortly after, the South African police arrived at the scene. Shrien then informed the police about Annie's kidnapping and the robbery that occurred. When the police learned that Annie and Shrien are British citizens who had come to celebrate their honeymoon here, they immediately mobilized a special unit to start searching for Annie. The police were searching for Annie and Shrien returns to the hotel Cape Grace at around 12:48 am and gives his statement. During this time, the taxi driver Zola is also found by the police and around 1:17 am he is brought to the hotel where his statement is also recorded. His statement aligns with what Shrien's had mentioned in his statement. After recording their statements, the police also contact Annie's family in Sweden and inform them about her kidnapping. Upon hearing about Annie's kidnapping, the whole family becomes distressed and Annie's father, Vinod Indocha, immediately books the ticket to Cape Town and heads to the airport. On the other hand, the police in South Africa, along with the special task force, continue their search for Annie throughout the night, but her whereabouts remain unknown. The next day, on 14th November 2010, early in the morning around 7:50 am, the South African police find the car Volkswagen of Zola in dilapidated condition standing on the road in Kailitsha neighborhood. The police couldn't see any body in the car initially. However, as they approached the car, when the back door opened, they found a small blood-soaked body on the rear seat, identified as Annie's. There were 3 gunshot wounds on Annie's body, one on her wrist, one on her chest, and one on her neck. After finding Annie's body, she was immediately sent for postmortem and the car was taken for forensic examination. The news of Annie's death was relayed to her husband Shrien and her father Vinod Indocha, who was still waiting at the airport for his flight. Upon hearing Annie's death, both Shrien and Annie's father became even more distressed. When this news reaches the media, it spreads worldwide like wildfire because Annie and Shrien were citizens of another country and moreover they were quite affluent. This case became high profile and all eye from the media and the press are now on this case. The local people in South Africa also become angry because while theft and kidnapping were common, a murder, especially of tourists, was highly unusual. The South African police quickly formed a team to investigate this case without any delay because there was immense pressure on them to solve this case. Subsequently, the postmortem report of Anni Dewani revealing that she was shot not 3 times but once, and the bullet was fired when her hand was on her chest. Perhaps she was trying to shield herself and that's when she was shot. The bullet entered her chest and came out from the back of her neck. After receiving the postmortem report, the police start waiting for any evidence from the car as they hadn't found any substantial evidence from the crime scene yet. On the night of 14th November 2010, Vinod Indocha also arrives in Cape Town around 11 pm and meets Shrien. He couldn't understand why his daughter Annie was shot when they were fully prepared to pay the ransom. Kidnapping were common in South Africa, so they thought they would rescue Annie after paying the ransom. But sadly, before that could happen, she had already died. Now they wanted the perpetrators of this crime to be caught as soon as possible. The next day, on 15th November 2010, a forensic team has a significant breakthrough in this case. They find a mark of a hand's palm on the front windshield of Zola Tongo's car. This mark was made when the kidnapper hit the windshield hard to stop the car. When the police matched these marks with their records, it was matched with a person named Zola Tongo. Mingine was a petty criminal involved in theft, burglary, and small crimes like that. After obtaining this information, the police immediately launched an operation to find him. The very next day, on 16th November 2010, they arrested him from Kailitsha Township. Once taken to the police station, Mangine confessed that he was present in the car, but he denied shooting Annie. He then explained that after letting Shrien getting out of the car, when he moved forward, his accomplice, Mizawame Doda Kwabe, stopped the car, took out his gun, went to Annie's side and demanded her purse. Annie was not giving up her purse, and that's when suddenly, in a fit of rage, Kwabe shot her. After this statement, the police had also identified his accomplice and now they started searching for Kwabe. After all the paperwork was done, on 16th November 2010, Annie's body was handed over to her family. After that, Shrien Dewani and Vinod Indocha flew to England with Annie's body on a private plane that same night. On the other hand, the police also tracked down Kwabe's location, and on the night of 17th November 2010, around 1 am, they also arrested Kwabe. Kwabe was taken to the police station, and when his history was investigated, it was found that he was just an ordinary person who had never committed any crimes before. In his statement, he admitted to being present during the incident in the car but denied firing the shot. He claimed that Zolile Mingine was the one who fired the shot. He then revealed new details, saying that he did it because a man named Monde Molombo had told him to do so. Following this statement, the police picked up Monde from his home on the morning of 18th November 2010. Monde, who worked as a receptionist at the Collegium Hotel, also had no criminal records. When Monde came to know about Kwabe's arrest, he made a new disclosure stating that he had no hands in the murder and that he had called Kwabe because Zola Tongo needed a rented killer. The police were shocked because the car involved in the incident was indeed of Zola Tongo, and now the police began searching for the taxi driver Zola Tongo, but by then he had already fled. 2 days later, on 20th November 2010, taxi driver Zola Tongo arrived at the police station with his lawyer and surrendered himself. Upon reaching the police station, in his testimony, he portrayed himself as innocent. However, when the police informed him that they had arrested all the other individuals involved, he realized that he was trapped. After that, police told the Tongo's lawyers that if he cooperates in the case and becomes the government witness, he would receive a lesser sentence. Tongo agreed to fully disclose the details to the police. He then narrated the whole story. He said it wasn't a sudden incident but a premeditated murder, and the contract to kill Anni Dewani was given by her husband Shrien Dewani. However, the testimony of Judge Zola Tongo wasn't enough, and relying solely on witness statement to accuse someone as prominent as Shrien Dewani would have been foolish. It was also possible that Tongo was lying. After hearing Tongo's testimony and checking the CCTV footage, the whole story unfolded. On the evening of 12th November 2010, when Tongo was looking for a passenger at the airport, he met Shrien Dewani, who was with his wife Anni Dewani. Shrien then asked him to drop them at the Cape Grace Hotel. Tongo agreed and took them to the Cape Grace Hotel from the airport. He arrived at Cape Grace Hotel around 5:13 pm. After reaching the hotel, Tongo charged the taxi fare to Shrien and Shrien told him to wait there as he had another task to do. Shrien got out of the car and went to the hotel. After a while, he came back and sat on Tongo's car. He then told Tongo that he wanted to arrange for his wife's murder and he was willing to pay 15,000 rand for it. In South African currency, 15 rands roughly translate to around 65,000 Indian rupees based on today's date. Shriens tell him that this murder should look like an accident. Upon hearing, Tongo tells him that he doesn't know any hired killer but he will ask his friend about it. After that, Shrien gets out of the car and goes back to the hotel and Tongo also leaves from there. A little later, around 5:42 pm, Zola Tongo arrives at the Colosseum Hotel where his friend Monde works at the reception. After hearing Tongo's story, Monde goes to the back of the office with him and then calls Kwabe, who lives in the same township and understands the whole situation. After hearing it, Kwabe agrees and calls Mingne and includes him into the plan. The next day, on November 13, 2010, Shrien Dewani again calls the taxi driver Zola Tongo and asks him if he can pay the payment for the murder in dollars. Tongo says that the payment can only be made in South African currency, which is in rands. After hearing this, Shrien asks Tongo to come to the hotel because he needs to exchange the currency. Tongo then goes to the Cape Grace Hotel and arrives at the Golden Touch Jewellery around 11:58 am where Shrien Dewani exchanged $1,500 into 10,000 rands. Then he returns to Zola Tongo's car and goes back to the hotel. During the journey to and from the hotel, Shrien and Tongo discuss the entire plan and then according to the plan, Annie's murder takes place in that same night. In his testimony, Tongo also mentioned that he had sent a text message, "Do not forget our fee," on Shrien's mobile phone when he and Shrien were sitting in the car. In response, Shrien had said that inside a pouch placed behind the passenger seat of the car, there is 10,000 rands. In his testimony, Zola Tongo also revealed that after the job was done, Shrien also had to pay him 5,000 rands, which he came to collect on the afternoon of November 16, 2010 around 1:37 pm at the Cape Grace Hotel. CCTV footage also showed that a pouch initially in Shrien's hand was later seen in Zola's hand. After hearing Zola's entire statement, the police retrieved the phone history and the location of everyone involved, which matched Tongo's statement one by one. All the pieces were falling into place and the questions that had been lingering in the police's mind for the past few days were starting to get clear. Such as, why would such a wealthy couple who could comfortably dine in any luxurious restaurant travel 40 kilometers from their hotel to a budget hotel? Why did they go to such a township which was considered dangerous even during the day without any local guide? Because the crime rate was very high there. And why did Shrien wanted to take Annie's body back to England as soon as possible? But one thing was still missing, and that was the motive. Because nobody orders a murder without a motive. There is always some underlying reason. And if the police were to find out why Shrien arranged for his wife's murder, everything would become even clearer. But police didn't have to work too hard for that because they stumbled upon a mail from a brothel named Leopard Leisure, whose professional name was the German Master. It was a new revelation. He says that Shrien was in a gay relationship with him and used to establish a connection by paying money. Additionally, he also revealed that Shrien once told him that he faced a lot of pressure from his family for marriage, but he didn't want to get married. After this statement, when the police conducted further investigations, they found out that Shrien had created a fake profile on the online dating website Keda.net and was active on the website even during his honeymoon. It was revealed that on November 15th and 16th, 2010, he had visited the website again and both times for about an hour each. After uncovering all this detail, everything became crystal clear like a mirror. However, the problem now was that Shrien had already left to UK and the case had become international. So, the South African police took the matter to the court and presented all the witness and evidence. Subsequently, the South African court issued a warrant against Shrien for conspiracy to murder his wife and filed for his extradition to South Africa. After the warrant was issued, on the morning of December 7, 2010, around 10:30 am, Shrien was arrested from his home in Bristol, England, and the process for his extradition began. Meanwhile, the South African court sentenced taxi driver Zola Tongo to 18 years in December 2010 and Kouabe was sentenced to 25 years in August 2012 for his involvement. Mingene was sentenced to life in prison in November 2012 for allegedly shooting Anni Dewani, although he never admitted to firing the shot. Monde didn't receive any punishment and was left free because he only facilitated the parties to meet. In the UK court, the process of bringing Shrien Dewani back to South Africa continued for several years. Shrien's lawyer said that his mental condition was not suitable, so it would not be right for him to go to South Africa. But when South African police presented all the CCTV footage, Zola Tongo's testimony, call records, and his homosexual relationship in court, finally after 4 years of trial, in March 2014, the UK court accepted the South Africa's extradition request and now Shrien Dewani's extradition to South Africa was certain. On 7th April 2014, Shrien was brought from England to South Africa, where he was immediately arrested on charges of conspiracy to murder his wife. Then on 6th October 2014, he was presented in South African court with his entire family present in court. The media frenzy outside the court was intense and the whole world was watching this case closely. Everyone wanted to hear from Shrien Dewani himself what happened that night and why he orchestrated such a thing. However, on the first day itself, Shrien's lawyer read out a pre-written statement on his behalf where Shrien stated that he was not straight but bisexual, meaning he liked to have a relationship with both men and women. After this statement, the government prosecutor case weakened significantly because, according to them, Shrien had arranged Anni's murder to hide his gay life. Anyways, after that, the government prosecutor presented a witness which revealed that Shrien Dewani had a homosexual relationship. But after listening to Shrien's lawyer's argument, the judge rejected his testimony, stating that since Shrien himself has admitted to preferring relationship with both men and women, the testimony was irrelevant. After that, the government prosecutor raised the question of why Shrien exchanged £10,000 and why he was out so late at night with so much money. The answer to this question was also given through a note already prepared by Shrien's lawyer. Shrien's lawyer said that the taxi driver Zola Tongo was arranging a helicopter ride for them and he had to exchange the money for that. Shrien's lawyer also mentioned that the helicopter ride was also a surprise for Anni. After that, the government prosecutor presented the main witness, taxi driver Zola Tongo, in the court because his testimony was a crucial aspect of the case as he was the only witness who had direct contact with Shrien. But when Zola Tongo appeared in court and was questioned by the defense lawyer, his statement didn't match. The government prosecutor didn't connect any link that could prove Shrien's involvement in the murder. Also, the police and the government prosecutor didn't have any physical evidence. They were solely relying on witness to fight the case. Taking advantage of this, the defense lawyer demanded to dismiss Zola Tongo's testimony, which was granted. After the dismissal of Zola Tongo's testimony, the case was dismissed because no crime against Shrien Dewani was proven in South Africa. And if there is no crime proven against any accused in South Africa, there is no need for them to stand in the court and answer any question. So, Shrien Dewani returned to England permanently after the case was dismissed. But there were still many unanswered questions. Why did he arrange the helicopter ride through Zola Tongo when the hotel he stayed at could have arranged it in few minutes? And if Shrien was bisexual and like relationship with men as well, why did he marry someone else? And why didn't he reveal before the marriage? Which still haunts Annie's family as they didn't get any closure in the court. Without any clarification, he just left the court, although they wanted to hear the answers to all the questions from Shrien's mouth. In 2015, allegations were also made against Judge Janet Traverso that the decision taken by her was under the influence of bribe, but later all the allegations against her were dismissed by the South Africa's National Prosecuting Authority. So, in conclusion, it is still a mystery as to who ordered the shooting against Anni Dewani and why. So, thank you for watching the video. Your support means the world to me, and I look forward to bring you more compelling stories and discussion in future. Until next time, take care and stay curious.